Weddings promise forever, but for some, forever never comes. The days leading up to I do ended in silence. No goodbyes, no explanations. They just vanished just before saying their vows, leaving unanswered questions. Let's uncover 5 people who mysteriously vanished before their wedding. Story 1. In early 1994, as winter slowly loosened its hold on northern Japan, the city of Haramachi moved through its days with familiar, quiet routines. Among them was a young woman standing on the threshold of a new life, just weeks away from her wedding. Nothing about that afternoon appeared unusual, yet by nightfall, she would vanish, leaving behind an unsettling stillness that has endured for decades. Hitomi Masuyama was 21 years old and lived with her parents and younger sister in the Haramachi area of Fukushima Prefecture. She was widely described as cheerful, kind, and deeply devoted to her family. Friends remembered her as responsible and optimistic, someone who valued stability and followed predictable routines. Hitomi worked at a local dental clinic where she was known for her polite demeanor and reliability. She rarely caused concern and stayed in regular contact with the people close to her. In early 1994, she became engaged, and those around her recalled her focus shifting toward wedding preparations and future plans. By all outward accounts, her life appeared calm, supported, and carefully arranged. February 19, 1994 was Hitomi's final working day at the dental clinic before her upcoming wedding, scheduled 3 weeks later. Her co-workers marked the occasion with flowers and farewell gifts, celebrating the transition she was about to make. During the afternoon, an unexpected phone call came into the clinic. A young woman asked specifically to speak with Hitomi, but did not give her name. Staff later noted a visible change in Hitomi's demeanor during the call. When it ended, she appeared unsettled and withdrawn, offering no explanation. At approximately 1 p.m., Hitomi left the clinic after saying goodbye. She was expected to return home by 10 p.m. That evening, she did not arrive. The following day, police located her black Suzuki Alto Works locked in a vacant lot behind a supermarket. The location was less than 1 kilometer from her workplace and roughly 2 kilometers from her home. Inside the vehicle were her handbag, money, identification, winter jacket, flowers, farewell gifts, and her engagement ring. There were no signs of forced entry or struggle. As investigators reviewed Hitomi's recent experiences, additional details emerged. Following the announcement of her engagement, her family reported receiving repeated silent phone calls late at night, beginning around midnight and gradually increasing in frequency until early morning hours. On the day Hitomi disappeared, the calls stopped entirely. Authorities also documented vandalism to her car prior to her disappearance, including deep scratches and insulting words carved into the exterior. Investigators believed these acts indicated personal hostility, though responsibility was never officially established. Attention later turned to Hitomi's fiancé after it became known that he had maintained another relationship without Hitomi's knowledge. Investigators explored whether this individual may have contacted Hitomi repeatedly, including the call to the dental clinic. No public evidence has confirmed criminal involvement, and authorities have not identified a definitive suspect. Nearly a year later, on January 4, 1995, Hitomi's family received a phone call from a woman who briefly claimed to be Hitomi before disconnecting. The voice sounded older and unfamiliar. The call was traced to a nearby public phone booth, but no further contact occurred. For Hitomi's family, the years that followed were shaped by uncertainty and unanswered questions. they continued to remember her through quiet reflection, holding on to hope while facing the absence of a clear resolution. What if the phone call on Hitomi's final day was meant to draw her away under a sense of reassurance? And what if key answers surrounding her disappearance were overlooked and never fully pursued? Story 2. In late May of 1990, spring warmth settled over Michigan as traffic moved steadily along Interstate 96. For most drivers, it was an ordinary weekday afternoon. For one woman traveling that highway, it became the moment she was last seen with certainty. Her disappearance turning a familiar stretch of road into a place defined by unanswered questions. Paige Marie Renkoski was born on February 2, 1960, in Lansing, Michigan. At the age of 30, she was living in Okemos and working as a substitute school teacher. Those close to her described Paige as kind, expressive, and generous, with a quirky sense of style and an easy laugh. She maintained close relationships with her family and was known for being dependable and attentive to others. Paige lived with her fiancé, Steve, and was building a life centered on work, family, and future plans. Friends recalled her as someone who enjoyed everyday routines and valued connection, making her sudden absence especially difficult to understand. On May 24, 1990, Paige began her day by driving her mother to Detroit Metropolitan Airport at approximately 11:30 a.m. From there, she traveled to Canton Township to visit a friend. Later that afternoon, between 2:30 and 2:45 p.m., she was seen at a local store where she made a small purchase before continuing her drive. Sometime after, Paige's silver 1986 Oldsmobile Cutlass Calais was observed stopped on the westbound shoulder of Interstate 96 near Fowlerville. Witnesses reported seeing Paige standing outside her vehicle, speaking with two unidentified men near a maroon or burgundy minivan. One observer recalled a gesture that appeared calm rather than confrontational, though the reason for the stop remains unknown. Hours later, Paige's car was found abandoned in the same location, still running with the windshield wipers on. Inside were her purse, her shoes, and personal items she had purchased earlier. Paige herself was gone, and no confirmed sightings followed. Initially, the vehicle was treated as abandoned and towed before a detailed examination could take place. Once authorities recognized the unusual circumstances, an investigation began. Fingerprints and palm prints were collected from the car, but none were conclusively matched. Over the years, investigators followed more than 1,000 tips and conducted searches using specialized equipment, including cadaver dogs and ground-penetrating radar. Detectives explored multiple theories, including the possibility of an encounter with someone on the highway or a connection to other unsolved crimes in the region. Authorities examined similarities to unrelated cases involving abandoned vehicles, but no evidence has publicly confirmed a link. Paige's disappearance remains officially unsolved, with facts and theories carefully separated due to the lack of definitive proof. For Paige's family, the years brought determination rather than resolution. Her mother, artist Renkoski, dedicated herself to keeping Paige's case visible, organizing public awareness campaigns and billboards along Michigan highways. After Artis's passing, Paige's sister, Michelle, continued those efforts, speaking publicly and encouraging anyone with information to come forward. Annual remembrances near Interstate 96 serve as quiet acknowledgments of a life interrupted and a family still seeking answers. What if Paige stopped on the highway for a reason that felt familiar and safe at the time? And what if the key to understanding her disappearance has yet to be recognized along that roadway? Story 3. In December 2025, a wedding was only days away. Plans were nearly complete, invitations had been sent, and a future was carefully mapped out. But in Quezon City, that future was suddenly interrupted. Sherrea de Juan stepped out for what should have been a simple errand and did not return. What followed was not celebration, but uncertainty, concern, and a case that quickly drew public attention. Sherrea, known to friends and family as Sherrea, was 30 years old and lived in Quezon City with her family. She was described as warm, sociable, and deeply committed to the people she loved. She was preparing to marry her fiancé, Mark R.J. Reyes, on December 14th, just days after she disappeared. Those close to her said Sherrea was actively involved in wedding preparations and remained in frequent contact with loved ones. She was not known to leave without notice or go silent for long periods. By all accounts, her life appeared stable, focused on work, family, and the future she was building. On December 10th, 2025, Sherrea left home to buy wedding shoes in the North Fairview area of Quezon City. It was expected to be a short trip. Before leaving, she reportedly left her cell phone at home, charging. An unusual detail that later complicated efforts to track her movements. CCTV footage later showed Sherrea walking along Atherton Street earlier that day. After that, confirmed sightings stopped. She did not return home that evening, and by nightfall, her family realized something was wrong. A missing person report was filed, and police began initial searches with the help of barangay officials. Her photo quickly spread across social media, shared by friends, family, and strangers, hoping to provide leads. As the investigation progressed, authorities stated that Sherea's online search history showed possible signs of emotional and financial stress in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. Police emphasized that these findings were not conclusions, but areas being examined as part of a broader inquiry. Sherea's father publicly disputed claims of financial difficulty, explaining that medical expenses in the family were covered and that wedding costs were manageable. He maintained that there was no indication Sherrea was under pressure significant enough to explain her disappearance. On December 17th, police announced that Sherea's fiancé had been identified as a person of interest, clarifying that this did not imply wrongdoing. Investigators stated they needed to verify timelines and accounts, as he was among the last people known to have seen her. Authorities also emphasized that there was no confirmed evidence of foul play, and the case remained open, with multiple possibilities under review. Surveillance footage, witness statements, and digital records continued to be examined as police urged the public to share credible information. Weeks later, a major development emerged. Sherrea de Juan was found alive in Ilocos Norte. Authorities confirmed that she was located several weeks after her disappearance. Details surrounding where she had been and what occurred during that time were not immediately disclosed, as the investigation remains ongoing. Her family expressed relief at her recovery and requested privacy as she received care and support. Police stated that further clarification would follow as they worked to understand the full circumstances of her disappearance. While Sherea's reappearance brought relief, questions remain. Why did she leave without her phone? What led to her sudden absence just days before her wedding? And what details have yet to be fully explained? For now, Sherrea de Juan's case stands as a reminder that even when someone is found, the search for understanding does not always end there. Story 4. In the spring of 2005, a quiet suburban neighborhood outside Atlanta became the center of national attention when a bride-to-be vanished just days before her wedding. What began as an evening routine quickly transformed into a mystery that unfolded in real time, drawing concern, speculation, and an intense search whose outcome few could have anticipated. Jennifer Carol Wilbanks was 32 years old in April 2005 and lived in Duluth, Georgia. She worked at an OB/GYN clinic and was known as active, sociable, and health conscious. An avid runner, Jennifer maintained a busy routine and strong relationships with friends and family. She was engaged to John Mason, and together they were planning a large and elaborate wedding that involved hundreds of guests and an extensive bridal party. Those close to Jennifer described her as highly involved in the planning process, attentive to details, and outwardly excited about the future she was preparing to begin. On April 26, 2005, Jennifer told her fiancé she was going out for a routine jog near their home. When hours passed without her return, concern grew. Friends and family attempted to reach her, but there was no response. Later that evening, she was reported missing. Local authorities began searching the surrounding area, joined by volunteers who combed nearby parks, roads, and wooded areas. Jennifer's car remained at home, and items she planned to wear for the wedding, including her engagement ring, were found untouched. As the search continued over the next 2 days, there were no confirmed sightings or communications that clarified her whereabouts. Law enforcement expanded the search effort, coordinating with regional agencies and appealing to the public for information. Media coverage intensified, and the case quickly gained national visibility. 3 days after Jennifer was reported missing, she reappeared in Albuquerque, New Mexico, more than 1,000 miles away. She contacted authorities from a public phone and initially reported that she had been abducted and transported across the country against her will. Investigators reviewed this account, but inconsistencies led to further questioning. Jennifer later stated that she had not been abducted and that she had traveled voluntarily. Authorities evaluated the situation and determined that no kidnapping had occurred. While the investigation shifted away from a missing person search, officials addressed the false report through legal channels, separating confirmed facts from earlier claims that could not be substantiated. For Jennifer's family and her fiancé, the experience was emotionally complex. In the earliest days, they feared for her safety and worked closely with volunteers and law enforcement. When the circumstances became clearer, they faced public scrutiny and intense media attention. John Mason spoke openly about the emotional strain of the situation, describing a progression from fear to confusion and eventual acceptance. In the months that followed, the couple attempted reconciliation, but later ended their engagement. For those close to Jennifer, the episode remained a deeply personal ordeal shaped by concern, relief, and long-term reflection. What if Jennifer's disappearance reflected pressures that were difficult to express or acknowledge at the time? And what if this case reveals how easily personal struggles can become public mysteries when answers are delayed? Story 5. Weddings are supposed to bring families and communities together, joy, tradition, and shared celebration. But in a village in Uttar Pradesh, one wedding unfolded into confusion, accusation, and an unexpected disappearance that baffled both families involved. When the groom failed to appear, what was expected to be a festive night turned into a perplexing dispute with unanswered questions about his sudden absence and what it revealed about the pressures around marriage. Sohanlal Yadav was a young man from Ayodhya, Uttar Pradesh, preparing to marry the woman he had been engaged to for many months. According to local accounts, the wedding had been arranged and celebrated with traditional ceremonies like the tilak, a formal pre-wedding ritual that affirmed the union months in advance. His engagement and upcoming wedding were subjects of excitement within both families, and preparations were underway with expectations of a joyful celebration. Those close to Sohanlal described him as a regular groom-to-be, planning the event, coordinating with family members, and fulfilling customary roles expected of a wedding in the region. Nothing in the early stages suggested the series of events that would soon unfold. As the wedding night approached in early December 2024, tensions began to emerge. Days before the scheduled ceremony, Sohanlal went missing, unable to be reached by his own family. Concern grew quickly, prompting his family to file a missing person report with local police in Amethi when repeated calls and messages went unanswered. Meanwhile, unaware of this development, the bride's family continued with wedding preparations. Guests arrived, decorations were set, and the celebration stood ready to begin. When the groom failed to appear at the scheduled hour, confusion mounted. The bride's father later recalled that they waited for hours, calling the groom repeatedly but receiving no reply. It wasn't until the bride's family was summoned to the local police station that they learned Sohanlal had been located, though not at the wedding venue. After his phone service resumed and police contacted him, he agreed to attend the ceremony and left for the bride's home with his wedding procession around 2:30 a.m. When Sohanlal finally arrived, the atmosphere had already shifted. The bride's family alleged that his late arrival was not due to simple delay, but tied to an alleged relationship with another woman, claiming that he'd abandoned the wedding plans days earlier. They said this betrayal, combined with his sudden disappearance, indicated deeper issues that went beyond typical cold feet. The bride's father explained that after a series of conversations where Sohanlal reportedly changed his demands, first asking for a car, then cash, the family moved forward with the wedding preparations in good faith. But his absence on the wedding night, coupled with these alleged prior demands, fueled their frustration and mistrust. Despite his insistence that he had simply been in Lucknow, that his phone had stopped working, and that he intended to marry, the bride's family declared the wedding canceled once they learned of the allegations and kept him at their home. They demanded that his family reimburse them for the expenses incurred in preparation before they would allow him to leave. Police intervened, attempting to mediate and reason with both families. However, the situation lingered, with neither side fully satisfied, and the groom effectively held until negotiations could progress. For both families, what should have been a joyful union became a confusion and dispute. The bride's relatives, frustrated by his absence and the reasons given, saw his disappearance as a breach of trust. Meanwhile, Sohanlal's family maintained that his late arrival was a misunderstanding complicated by technology and miscommunication. As details of the case circulated online and in local media, villagers and social networks weighed in, reflecting on traditions, expectations, and the pressures tied to marriage in rural India. What if Sohanlal's disappearance wasn't just a delay or misunderstanding, but a signal of deeper conflict between families? And what if the truth behind his absence lies somewhere here between cultural expectations, personal decisions, and the weight of tradition? 5 lives, 5 futures interrupted. Each disappearance leaving behind unanswered questions, unfinished plans, and loved ones still waiting for clarity. Time moves forward, but these stories remain suspended in silence, reminding us that some mysteries refuse to fade. This is Vanished Stories, where the missing are never forgotten.